all those Greek life kids too running SGA, they were such stuck up assholes. Talked to me like a total bunch of fucking douchebags, and they thought they were so smart. Like, oh, I know how to do messaging so well. I just bullshit, and they believe my bullshit. No, I didn't believe y'all's fucking bullshit for one fucking second, you stupid pricks. And yeah, so really, fuck you guys. SGA at UofL only basically wasted all my fucking time. There was nobody cared what SGA did except for me, and I was the only student there, and they didn't represent any student. They had no constituency. They're busy, you know, kissing that one lady's ass, and she was acting like a damn professor, like she was supposed to be listened to, but she was a jerk, and nobody should have listened to any word that she ever said. So it's impressive, actually, that she was able to manipulate the entire room, because she's a boss, and everybody's supposed to be beneath her. She's also an RA, like, no to everything about but they voted against gay marriage. Why would the first gay president, and a man who's been there for 10 years, so the establishment and the new president could have bound together, and it doesn't matter whose mouth it comes out of, sometimes an idea just passes prime. When I asked if there was anybody that was against gay marriage, one lady raised her hand, and then Travis Gault spoke up. So Travis Gault was against gay marriage. Anybody who was there, but really it had nothing to do with that, right? Because it doesn't give, who gives a shit about the principles that I'll stand up for? They're allowed to be a bunch of fucking rich kid bullies, and that's acceptable. The dean will accept that. What he will not accept is us getting along and us getting freedom. He will not accept that. That's bullshit. He will tear down the occupied tents, but he won't make sure that gay marriage is allowed on campus. And, you know, Kurtis, Frizzell, and Travis Gault, they just basically showed me that they're a bunch of administrative kiss-asser people, you know. They didn't give a shit about doing what was good and what was right. They only cared about taking power, and that sucks, you know. That sucks, because you assume, well, I guess it sucks when you believe in somebody and then they completely let you down. So UofL's Students' Bill of Rights. University of Louisville, the mission statement of University of Louisville. The University of Louisville shall be a premier, nationally recognized metropolitan research university with a commitment to the liberal arts and sciences and to the intellectual, cultural, and economic development of our diverse communities and citizens through the pursuit of excellence in 5 iterated strategic areas: educational experience, research, creativity, scholarly activity, accessibility, diversity, equity, communication, partnerships and collaborations, institutional effectiveness of programs and services. So far, I'm basically just ripped it off the mission. You know, it's badly written. Kiss my ass, motherfuckers. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind, the event of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom and belief, and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. Whereas even Patrick Henry had to fight tooth and nail for the cherished and celebrated Bill of Rights 8 years after being a major essential component of the Revolution, when eventually they were begrudgingly added to the U.S. Constitution 4 years after the U.S. Constitution was ratified. So they didn't even want to give us the Bill of Rights, whereas it's the duty of every generation to declare our rights and freedoms, and no generation prior to the 2011-2012 generation since 1977 thought to include a Bill of Rights into the Constitution. Even though it's a staple in every other founding constitution, now it's time for the postmodern generation to declare theirs. The postmodern revolutionary generation, but we're neither postmodern or revolutionary at UofL. The 2011-2012 SGA was crap, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Whereas the essential of man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law, whereas every student at the University of Louisville, also UofL, gets to enjoy the privileges and immunities guaranteed by the amalgamation of founding documents, privileges and immunities that's straight from the federal Constitution. But from not just that Constitution, but also the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the S of A of the City of Louisville, the Student Handbook of UofL SGA's Constitution, in addition to the privileges of attending a university and any other freedom as the 9th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution allows, such as an inherent, inalienable, self-evident freedoms that are not mentioned, such as human rights, but there is no single document which compiles all the rights of the UofL student to a single user-friendly, easy-to-read, comprehensive student bill of rights, guaranteeing every student's freedoms. By reinforcing our generation's collective freedoms, we also reinforce our autonomy and can prevent all future excursions from outside governmental bodies, national, state, local, otherwise, from stealing or restricting our 52 cardinal freedoms, right? Cardinal as being important, our main, important, essential freedoms, 52 cardinal freedoms, and counting in any way, shape, or form imaginable. So these were the freedoms that I had written down that basically it was guaranteed anyways, but it was all in one document. And they smashed it. They killed my Bill of Rights. And what freedoms were they? The cardinal freedoms: the right to life, liberty, and property, the freedom to vote, the freedom to revolution, the freedom to speak freely without frontiers, the freedom of self-preservation, the freedom to maintain one's dignity, the freedom of security, freedom of religion, freedom of education, freedom to enter into a contract, freedom to petition, freedom of justice, freedom to peacefully assemble, freedom to associate, freedom to organize student unions, the freedom to work, freedom to participate in government, freedom to get married, raise a family, gay or straight, freedom to openly bear arms, freedom of research and inquiry, freedom to distribute written material without prior approval, freedom of a fearless press, freedom to a syllabus, freedom of privacy, the Brandeis freedom, the freedom to use the university's facilities such as auditoriums, park spaces, restaurants, and documents, the freedom to remain silent, freedom to file a complaint, freedom to invite any speaker to campus, freedom to address SGA, which they went ahead and kicked out. Of course they're going to kick this out. They look at themselves as, we're the barons of the next generation, and we don't want to be, nobody can confront our corrupt asses. So therefore they killed every other freedom. The freedom of open meetings, which all these are freedoms anyways. I stole these directly out of the freedom of a fearless press. That comes straight out of UofL's founding documents. Okay, so the freedom of revolution, that's Section 4 of Kentucky's Constitution. These are all already freedoms anyways. So you couldn't, by voting this down, you actually don't stop us from having these freedoms. We still have these freedoms. But by voting these down, you say loudly that you want these freedoms to die. Okay, you don't give a shit about these freedoms or each other or the students. Really, it's just all about yourself. So freedom of privacy, and I call it the Brandeis freedom, right? Because Louis Brandeis came from Louisville. He was all about, Chief Justice, all about, you know, the freedom to a syllabus. A syllabus, we should all get a syllabus from school. That is a contract from the teacher to the student about what, you know, how the class is going to be conducted. Without the syllabus, that's the only thing that we have. That's the only contract we have. Without it, there is no contract. And usually it's all about, you know, do this and do that and do this. And here's all the, you know, the 10 conditions of the, whatever, a bunch of just perfunctory sort of, we care about some of the founding documents. But no, they don't come from the same spot. They come from all over. The freedom to use the university's facilities, such as the auditoriums, park spaces, restaurants, and documents. The right to remain silent. It's the Fifth Amendment. Freedom to file complaint. Freedom to invite any speaker to campus. To any speaker to cancer. No. The freedom to address SGA. The freedom of open meetings. Freedom to self-identify, the freedom to be independent. Judicial freedoms, freedom from absolute and arbitrary power. Freedom from arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. The freedom from unreasonable and unwarranted search and seizures. The freedom of fair and public due process. The freedom to confront your accusers. The freedom of a speedy trial. Freedom of a jury trial for matters involving $20 or more. The freedom to call witnesses on your behalf. Freedom from double jeopardy. I saw Reynolds, the supposed Supreme Court Justice Reynolds, I think Brian, he didn't want me to film the day that they screwed over Max Morley. And now it's going to be known as the Morley decision, the Max Morley decision. So if they kept the binder as they said they was going to do, and they're going to keep that binder throughout the generations, and SGA will know about these things, okay, and they will hear about it, and they will say, what happened this day? And I was like, oh, so the judicial system is allowed to intervene in an election and steal the other person's votes. That's how they can, you know, that's how you give power to the judicial system, is you give it the ability to take the votes away. Without the ability to take the votes, they don't have the power, you know, to enforce what they're trying to say. So if the judicial system says, don't pass out flyers, by God, if you pass out flyers, they're going to steal 500 votes from you, and that's okay, because of the Max Morley decision. So of course he didn't want me to videotape that. Eventually I convinced him, because it was for school, you know. Oh, you ain't gonna let me do this for school? This is for school. I'm there. You can't do it for school. Okay, I'll let you do it for... Motherfucker, I should have just called your ass out right there. Who, you trying to steal someone's position? And yeah, they did. It was a $500,000 seat, you know, and they could have actually said something, but Max Morley was a dick for an entire fucking year to me, so fuck you. And then he wants to see me at the thing and then try to be like we're friends or something. Yeah, I know it's your party, but I don't like you, so, you know, I'm not going to kiss your ass. Fucking prick. He couldn't get off that fucking dude's dick. Man, oh man, I've never seen someone kiss so much fucking ass. And, well, let's finish the freedoms. No, actually, okay, so he kissed so much ass. Max Morley. So, he seems actually a talented and smart dude or whatever, and he should have been the people that actually won. He was more energetic and more fun, and the other teams seemed like they were more sniveling, sort of backstabbers, you know, sort of crappy people. But the, I remember actually come up and telling him that I mentioned in my final draft for this class, this political leadership class for the Mitch McConnell scholars, that I had finished my commencement speech and that I had inserted Frederick Douglass quotes, and he was like, but the teacher doesn't like that Greg or something, Greg somebody. I think it was Greg. I don't know. He's like, the teacher doesn't like outside sources. You shouldn't be giving outside sources. Like, motherfucker. He had a bunch of white, you know, we could love a bunch of white founders, but Frederick Douglass, you're not going to put that into the pantheon of the great books, the greatest thoughts and ideas. You're not going to enjoy, you know, fuck you. Frederick Douglass is better than all those other fucking powder wig wearing, you know, whatever, Jefferson, Washington. Freedom of a speedy trial, freedom of a jury trial for matters involving $20 or more, the freedom to call witnesses on your behalf, freedom from double jeopardy, freedom from excessive bail and cruel and unusual punishments, freedom from torture, the freedom to not be jailed for debts, the freedom of habeas corpus, the freedom to not have the state military living in your sleeping quarters, general freedoms. So these are, we already have, that's one of that's the 8th Amendment, I think. These come directly from our Bill of Rights anyways. So you're not actually expanding them, you're just documenting the ones that you had. But since you're saying, well, get out of here, does UofL SGA, have they put out a student Bill of Rights yet? Does the students have a Bill of Rights yet? I bet they don't. I bet they'll never get one. So the freedom of leisure, the freedom of culture, the freedom of movement such as exercise or dance, the freedom to not worry and be happy, the freedom from want and fear, the right to amend the student Bill of Rights in order to expand your freedoms. Louisville first, cards forever. University of Louisville, here in UofL homepage, the United Nations Declaration. So I got some things for the UN, right, for the human rights. Clotter, we defined the history up by James Clotter. Historic, post-historic, postmodern. That's where I got postmodernism. I referenced the UN preamble. John Locke, 2 treatises of government. Kentucky Constitution. UofL's SGA Constitution, Section 2.4. All members have a right to petition the SGA or agency thereof for redress of grievances. Bill of Rights Amendment 2. All well-regulated militia, we're allowed to bear arms. Kentucky's Constitution, Section 1.7. The right to bear arms in defense of themselves and of the state, subject to the power of General Assembly to enact laws to prevent persons from carrying concealed weapons. So you're allowed to have a gun as long as you expose it and show everybody that you have it. UofL Student Handbook, Section 7.C. Student Handbook, UofL's Handbook, UofL's Handbook, SGA, UofL, Bill of Rights, U.S. Constitution. And this is poorly written. This was poorly written. Yeah, right. You're just an asshole who can't read anybody else's written documents. So, y'all killed it. You know, be happy with yourselves. You think I haven't been a person that's seen lots of failure over and over again in my life. So, you know, y'all just did what everybody else did. Whatever.